To St. Philip's College. It is the first HBCU that was established in Texas, so I'm proud to be a part of it.
Okay. The interview is taking place at Austin Presbyterian Theological Seminary in Austin, Texas, and is sponsored by Humanities Texas as part of the HBCU Truth and Reconciliation Oral History Project. How's your day going so far?
It's going really good. I'm very glad that I decided to come down here and be a part of this project because I love history, and my great-grandmother, she did exactly this for Baylor University. I was able to take her transcript and use it in a history project, doing additional background information for it, and it just turned out really great, and I was so excited to have the opportunity to basically do what she did years ago.
Okay, before we go in depth to your story, can you just give us a little bit about one of your grandmother's story that stood out to you?
Well, my great-grandmother, she was on my mother's side. We called her, everybody called her the white grandmother because she was very, very fair-skinned. She had beautiful long hair. And she was just an all-around, like, what you would expect from a grandmother. Like the ones you see on TV, they bake cookies. You're always at grandmother's house and just enjoying spending time with her. And I learned that she was Seminole Indian. Her, if I'm not mistaken, I forgot which parent it was, but she was Seminole Indian, and the Seminoles were a part of the Trail of Tears during, the 1800s during Reconstruction, and they migrated here to Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, and I think some parts of Louisiana. But they settled here, and every now and again we still do go to the reservation in Brackenridge, if I'm not mistaken, or Brackenville. It's one of those B words. But she talked about growing up, how in her community it was black, white, natives, Mexicans, just everybody in the community. No one really thought about race. It was, these are our neighbors, these are our people. But as she started going to schools and stuff, she started seeing little bits and pieces of that racial discrimination coming in and influencing her and her peers' life. White kids would go to one school, blacks would go to another, and for her, even though she was black, she looked white enough, but she was never white enough for the whites. She was never black enough. So she was always somewhere in the middle. And I had the privilege of meeting her and spending time with her when I was younger, but I mainly remember my other great-grandmother. This was it's gonna sound so weird, my mom's mom's mom. My grandmother, who is Seminole, is my mom's dad's mom. My great-grandmother on I guess you could say my grandmother's side, she was actually a sharecropper. So, she remembered, she was born in 1919, so she remembered a lot. She went through a lot, though she never really got to tell her story, and I wish I could have heard it because, her eldest son, he remembered picking cotton with her and just a lot of stuff that went on growing up, down south during segregation. And I just wish I had had the opportunity to hear what really went on, what she experienced, so then it could help, as part of history, telling what really went on from her point of view, the black side, because you never really get to hear what they went through because it's always swept under the rug. No one wants to talk about what went on.
Okay. Based on the story you just, an insight you provided about your grandmother and your other grandmother from another side.
Yes.
And the stories they told you about their societies right now. So what do you think is the difference between the society they had then and your viewpoint of our society right now in reference to race?
As far as race, theirs was more out in the open. People were not afraid to show their racism, their disdain for people of color. They were very vocal. They were very open about it. And, you know, minorities went through a lot of struggle. You know, they were always fighting. They were always just trying, like, look, we are human. We're gonna have our equality. But certain aspects of it still remain today. Because even though they fought valiantly for their freedom, for their rights, it seems like a lot of the stuff that they fought for never really was addressed or resolved. It was just transformed into something new. Different day, same thing. Because, you know, back then they were marching for rights to vote, equality in schools, and then today you still have statistics showing that Black kids are more likely to get suspended, to get in trouble. There's school-to-prison pipelines. You know, there's a lot more that is finally coming out in the open, or I guess you could say being recognized because of technology. The only difference between back then and now is we have social media to post every little instance that goes on. You hear people saying, you know, why is it all of a sudden that y'all are upset about the way you're treated? And it's like, we never stop being upset. We never stop pointing out the disparities in our treatment. Y'all are just now finally taking notice because social media has allowed us to finally say, hey, this is what's been going on. You have to pay attention. You have no choice. We're not gonna stop. We're gonna keep going until we get the rights that we deserve.
Okay, so the way society is going and the events going on about race and racism in the society, how does that make you personally feel? How do you personally feel about that?
Personally, growing up, I didn't get that outright racism, but I did notice instances, especially when it came to school. You know, like, I would look at other students, especially my friends, because I had majority white or Mexican, and I would notice the differences in our hair. And I would say, you know, is there something wrong with me because my hair doesn't lay down like theirs? If I do get it flat ironed, it curls right back up if it even has a touch of humidity. And then representation-wise, I never had good role models to look up to. Every TV show that I turned on, Black females had to have their hair flat ironed, permed, just some type of straight. And then Barbie dolls, or just dolls in general that I got, I didn't mind getting black or white. I loved both because I thought they were I just loved dolls. I was a kid. But I always noticed they had straight hair, so I would always cut the hair off because I was like, it doesn't look like mine. And as I got older in school, I noticed that whenever we would talk about topics of history, they never wanted to talk about what really went on during slavery, you know, what happened before we came over to this country or before we were brought. And as I got into my high school years, I went to East Central High School. We had this thing called Blackout Day, and it was for victims of drunk driving. Well, whenever they had this blackout day, this blackout week, you know, just blackout in general, talking about drunk driving and stuff like that, it was always during Black History Month. I never saw posters of Black History Month. If there was any type of Black history, teachers would say, we're not gonna go into that because of course, state testing. They were trying to prepare us. But even then, they had time for Blackout Day. And I was able to realize that the reason that they were so adamant about having it is one of the main victims was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girl. And, you know, they're going to get more media attention than, say, a Black, Hispanic, Latino, whatever you want to call it, Asian, Muslim, Indian, Native American, you know, just any other race. It's always going to be a certain demographic because that's what is mainly portrayed. And during that time, I was just like, why is it that we're not getting representation? Why is it that I am learning more about the Holocaust that did not happen in this country? Even though it was terrible, we're learning more about that, and I still don't know if there were slaves who fought back, if there were Black inventors, if there were great civilizations in Africa before any type of European colonization. And after I graduated, I really started delving into Black history, trying to figure out what was going on, what isn't being taught.
So, in your opinion, would you say you were blinded from your own history by the institution you were in?
Yes. You could tell that anytime some type of Black, Mexican, or Latino, or Native American history is brought up, you could see the apprehension and uncomfortableness of those who were white because they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to know, or they just don't want to acknowledge the fact that they probably had ancestors who did bad stuff, who were discriminatory towards others, who were racist, who probably did contribute to slavery. You can tell that they just don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to face that truth. So anytime race is brought up, they immediately go on the offense and start spouting off a lot of myths about Black history, saying, oh, well, Blacks sold Blacks into slavery. Blacks own Blacks. Blacks this, Black that. And it's like, y'all are trying to put so much on our own race to take off the spotlight from what your ancestors did and basically try to justify what your ancestors did to people of color. And even now today, since I'm learning so much more about my history, it's really, really great. And whenever I bring up, no, the history that we've been taught is indoctrination. People don't want to hear it. And being a Black female, my credibility is immediately questioned. It's always, where are your sources? What are your citations? Who are you talking about? Give me books, give me this, give me that, to basically prove me, to prove what I know. And I've given them excerpts from Smithsonian, books that have been published by historians, documentary movies that were done by historians that are credible. And it's always, oh, well, I still don't know. You need to do more research, you're lying, you're this, you're that. You're racist. I think that's the biggest one that I always get, is that me pointing out the racism, pointing out the disparities in systemic racism makes me racist.
You think you're in a position to be racist in this society? You think African Americans are in a position to be racist?
Systematically, no. Now, do we have prejudice? Oh yeah, everyone has some type of prejudice and bias, of course. But the question is, why is it such a problem when the reaction comes about from the initial action? When you think about everything that Blacks have gone through, not just Blacks, but Mexicans, Native Americans, every single race on this planet, when you think about everything they've gone through, especially here in America, don't we have a right to at least be pissed? To have that defense of, okay, I'm going to be cautious around them because I know what can happen to me. When you stop and think about the history of America, when have Blacks ever really had the chance to heal themselves politically, economically, financially, socially, spiritually? When have we had that chance?
Okay. So you've given me a lot of background information about your life in the States, your grandmother, you've been in school. Is there any specific time, or multiple times perhaps, whereby you felt like you've been racially persecuted?
Not on the scale that others have been. I know that being the color that I am, a light-skinned Black female, I do have privileges. where I'm going to be favored more than my dark-skinned sisters. But I did notice when I was trying to model, a woman told me that I'm Black. So that means that the modeling agencies are going to want me because I'm going to stay looking younger for a longer period of time so they don't have to replace me. But I still have European features, which is favorable.
How did that make you feel?
In the moment, I knew I had to grin and bear it, because whenever you bring up those types of just statements, people go on the defensive. But my mother was with me, and I just kind of gave her that side eye, like, you hear this, right? And when I finally had the chance to really analyze it by myself, all I could think was, just imagine how many Black women who don't have European features are turned away from their careers, from potential, especially being in entertainment. And for me, all I could think was, so if I didn't have these European features, I wouldn't be good enough. And I've already been trying hard to get my self-esteem back, to accept my Blackness from when I was a little girl, because I never had positive representation. That representation is just now really being filtered into media. I'm finally seeing Black women with curly hair from different ranges of 2A to 4C hair. I am finally seeing myself represented. And to hear that, it was like, even though these opportunities are coming, it's still going to take a long time before true equity is established in this country, and you have a lot of people fighting very hard to keep it from coming into fruition.
You think in the moment whereby she said you look Black and you were not able to speak about that fact, do you think African Americans, in order to strive to survive in the society, kind of feel voiceless in several situations? And in your situation, do you think you were voiceless in actually expressing your opinion? Because this is something you are passionate about, but you cannot tell your story because you might not have the opportunity. Do you think that was your case?
Yes, I do believe that a lot of the times we are voiceless because people fight so hard to keep us silent. And in that moment, it's like, I know that if I say anything, this lady is going to go off the rail, try to accuse me of being racist, of pointing out her internal prejudice, what she basically grew up in. She doesn't know what she's doing, or she probably does. I really don't know. But just knowing that there's so many Blacks that go through that, and I had that experience, it's like, it's so hard for us to really have that voice because we're always being shut up as quickly as possible. And it's just hard to really get what we're saying out into the open because there's always going to be people who discredit it, say we're complaining too much. We should be grateful that we even live in this country in the first place to voice our complaints. I can't say how many times I've seen, oh, if you don't like what's going on in this country, you should just leave. No, the whole point in this country is to say the problems so then we can fix them. If we had that mentality, the founding fathers should have gone back to England or wherever it is they came from if they didn't like what was going on in this country. And from that mentality, it's like, no, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to remind you that your country, the one that you have this little fairy tale imagination of, is not what you think. I'm going to sit here, I'm going to remind you that this country needs work. I'm going to become a historian. I'm going to implement minority history into the regular school curriculum to remind you that there are other stories that need to be told, other perspectives other than a heterosexual white old male who is also rich. I'm going to remind you that no, I'm going to stay here, I'm going to fight, and I'm going to do what it takes to improve the lives of my brethren. whether they are my Black brothers and sisters or my Mexicans, my Asians, my Native Americans, my Indians, my Muslim brothers and sisters. Because I know that all of us together is going to create the change that we want to see.
If given the opportunity to speak to minority groups like Hispanics, African Americans, what would be your message to, for example, your African American sisters, your Latino sisters? What would be your message to those groups? How can they manage to survive in a system that constantly oppresses them? Based on your experience, and if you look back on your experience, what would you do differently, and how would you advise other people coming before you to do in situations like that?
I would say to never stop fighting and to never forget who you are. Just because someone tells you or is subliminally shown that you are not up to par with your white counterparts or that you do not matter, don't ever lose yourself. Keep fighting. If they are trying to get the stereotype out of you, be that stereotype, because you know what? People need to hear the truth. It's not about how the message is conveyed, it's that it's conveyed in the first place. And I would tell all my sisters, yes, it is very hard. It's always going to be hard. It's always going to be obstacles, especially in this time period right now. But it's going to be worth it in the end for our future generations. I want to be able to see my kids live in a world where they can be happy about their skin color no matter what they look like, that they don't have to come and question me and say, Mom, why am I this color? Because I used to ask my mother all the time, like, you know, Mom, why are we Black? Why are we the ones with the curly hair? I want to have straight hair so then I don't have to mess with it, so then it doesn't, take too long or people don't look at me funny. I want my kids to be able to know that them loving themselves, them holding themselves on the level that I know that they can be on, having that self-esteem, having that confidence is what's going to take them to the very top and beyond, and also improve the lives of others who may not have the chance to speak up or to fight for themselves.
Wow, I'm really fascinated about a lot of stuff you said. It really touched me. And I wanted to find out, if given the opportunity, if placed in a position of power, what would be the first thing you implement, or how would you go about making sure that this whole idea of racism is eradicated from our society? And another two-part question to that, do you believe that our society can change for better, that we can actually have a society where racism is no longer an issue?
Well, for the first part of the question, I would say if I ever got into that position of power, I would immediately start advocating and finding ways to implement minority history into the schools, because knowledge is the basis in order to know how we can find solutions to these problems. We can make projects, we can petition, we can go to our lawmakers, or we can vote our lawmakers out who are hindering us. And that would be my very first step, is to get this knowledge into these schools, not as an elective where it's eventually done with because not enough people are signing up for it, but where it is mandatory, where these kids need to learn where they come from, who they are, because when they have that positive representation of the past, they know that in this present, they have the opportunity to keep going and to continue their ancestors' legacy in order to shape a better future. And then as for the second part of the question, could you reiterate it?
Which is, do you think racism can be eradicated from the society, that we can actually have a society whereby African Americans and Caucasians can work together as a collective force, Hispanics, African Americans, Caucasians, like a society whereby there's no longer power dynamic based on what race you identify with or you are?
I believe
we can get to that kind of a society?
I believe we have the potential to, but our society would have to crumble itself. And literally fall on its heel, like fall on its head, and ultimately be humbled, forcefully humbled. Something big would have to happen before people finally said, we need to stop with this issue of race. Because right now, even 5 years from now, no, I do not see it. We have the potential to do better, to be better, to work harder, to understand each other. But right now, with the way the power dynamics are set up, it's going to be a big struggle. It is a struggle for minorities. But then when it's finally time to come to that place of, okay, we have our freedom, minorities are going to have to truly build themselves up like they try to do, like they've been trying to do, destroying stereotypes, prejudice, bias. This country was literally founded on the institution of racism and prejudice through years and years of subtle indoctrination, subtle forced assimilation, and it's going to take a lot to break each single one of those layers off to be able to start new. And this society is too stubborn for it. They don't want to go and find out what life could be like if blacks were truly equal. You still have people saying, make America great again. Well, it may have been great for y'all, but for any minority, it was never great. Minorities have never had that chance to heal themselves in this country because it's always been one after the other. For blacks, it was slavery. Right after slavery, it was what is known as the Second Civil War, because during Reconstruction era, people were fighting, massacring. They were doing any and everything they could to make sure blacks stayed subservient. Then they introduced black codes. Then it was Jim Crow and segregation, civil rights, and now we are still saying Black Lives Matter. When are we gonna get the chance to finally say, you know what? We did it. Now it's time to heal ourselves, to go console ourselves. You know, have those moments of grieving like any normal person, and then pick ourselves up and start our society like we know we can. I always compare black struggle to rape victims. Whenever, as a female, I'm gonna use a female because I can relate, but for a female, we have a certain mindset. For me, I've never been raped, so I don't know what they go through. I am in a good place. My mindset is a certain way right now. But say I was raped, my mindset is going to completely change. Yes, I will heal eventually, but right after that rape, my mindset is going to change. Physically, I'm going to have to heal. I'm going to have to go and get a rape kit, go to the doctor, go to get maybe prescriptions or just any and everything to heal my body. But then my mental state is completely altered. I'm gonna always look over my shoulder, always wonder who could try and get me as well. And then when I finally have kids, I'm gonna worry about them. So I'm probably gonna grow and raise them on my altered mindset. Make sure you watch out for yourself. Make sure you don't trust certain people. And then when they grow up, they're gonna pass that down to their kids because they know, okay, this happened to my mother. She didn't want it to happen to us. It could possibly happen to our children as well. And it's gonna go on that way. Well, when you take that rape victim and her family, imagine it like slavery. Imagine this mother's altered mindset, passing it on to her children to warn them, but then her children get raped. And then their children get raped, and it just keeps going on. That's how slavery worked. That psychological torture literally was passed down from generation to generation, essentially altering DNA as well, because we all know survival of the fittest, natural selection. Our bodies are going to adapt to our environment. Blacks had to adapt to that traumatic and despair, suffering environments in order to survive. And now we aren't given that chance. to heal. We have not grieved. We have not done anything in order to alter our mental state for the better. We are still stuck in a cycle of sadness, hurt, and pain to where it's going to be hard to break it.
So you would say African Americans have suffered generations of rape, and would you also say that currently in the society will still African Americans are still being raped either socially, economically? Would you agree with that?
Yes, because since that systematic racism has been set in place almost perfectly by design, it still trickles down to even generations today. Some people may not experience it, but a majority feels it in some way. It may not be that outright rape that slavery was, but it's still there. That harassment, that assault, all of that is still prevalent today. It may not be in the same form as it was 50 years ago, 150 years ago, 200 years ago. It may not be exactly the same way as it was then, but it's been converted to where it's not as easily noticeable. Whenever the situation or subject is brought up, it's criticized, and the victims are blamed for what they went through at the hands of someone else. And now it's going to be hard to really bring it into light to say, no, this is what has been going on for a long time. We have been angry. We have been protesting. We have been speaking out. We have been trying to gain knowledge. But with the way the system is set up, our government, judicial, executive, all that, it's going to take a lot to dismantle the hurt that has been dealt. And one of the greatest examples is our prison systems. The war on drugs. It was, like I said, almost created perfectly by design to send a lot of our Black men, who generally are only in there for nonviolent drug offenses. So what they say, a dime of weed or whatever, I don't know those measurements. I don't smoke it. It's not me. I don't care one way or another about it. So, but those little drug offenses make them incarcerated. And a lot of the times it could be trumped up charges of, oh, they were resisting when we went to go get them. Oh, it was this, it was that. It's so much that is put on our Black men to put them in jail. And the thing is, the same exact crimes that a Black man commits, he's gonna get longer sentences than his white counterpart who does the exact same thing. So how do you get rid of a population? How do you keep them at a certain number in a certain subservient role? You get rid of their way to procreate. You put about a good half of them in jail. Then you introduce drugs, weapons, anything you can think of into their neighborhoods. You flood it in. Our Black movies have always given hints about it. New Jack City, Straight Outta Compton, Boys in Hoods. It's always those little hints. Well, where did all these drugs come from if none of us own the shipyards, the planes? If none of us have passports, where are these drugs, all this alcohol and liquor? Well, same difference. But that, and where are these weapons coming from? We don't own the factories that make the weapons. We don't own the ones that make the alcohol. We don't own the ones that make the drugs. Yeah, you have these little people that sell them and possibly make them and all that, but they're nothing. They're the worker ants. Where are the people that's in charge that's subliminally and slowly putting it into these neighborhoods? And then on top of that, you have these gangs that are springing up. So, and on top of having a lot of Black men incarcerated, you have a lot of them dying from the gang activity. And that's how you keep the population at a certain level. It's how you keep them subservient. Now, yes, there's always gonna be those little instances where you have our NBA, NFL, our rappers, R&B singers, our president come up. But it's that little toy that you dangle, saying, look, they made it. You can too. Even though we put all these obstacles, they still made it. It's the, oh, this is my black friend, so I can't be racist.
This has been a very educative section, and I just wanted to know a little bit more about your mother. How's it going?
My mother is...
You're a mother, right?
No, I'm not a mother. I am only 20 years old, but I do want kids. I really do. I look at like dogs and my little cousins as my babies, even though I give them back.
I'm sorry, that was my fault.
No, it's good.
The, accents barrier. What I was trying to say is that you do fashion stuff. You model.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I was trying to get to. I do understand you're not a mother. So how's that going?
It's going good. For, I think, a year or so, I've been taking a break because I wanted to focus on, I guess you could say, my plan B.
Okay.
Every plan that you always have to have a backup plan. And so right now I am working to solidify that backup plan. That way if modeling doesn't work out, I know that my history, that my passion is there, and it's going to take me wherever I need to go. And I can learn just as much as I would if I was modeling. Because, you know, as a model, I get the nice paycheck. I can travel the world, look at all the different cultures. But being a historian, I get to go more in depth because of my job. I get to learn, I get to experience and see people in their native element. And that is the best part. Like, don't get me wrong, modeling will always be there. And the lady was right, black, don't crack. I have plenty of time to go, but right now, my backup plan, going to St. Philip's, graduating, finding a 4-year college to continue my degree, and then going even further to get a PhD. That's my focus right now. Modeling will always be there. I will always love it. It'll always be something fun. But right now, I need to focus on this backup plan because modeling, I'll never know when it'll pop up. The best things in life are surprises.
Okay. And I do wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And we're coming to an end of the interview. Is there anything else you would like to share? Any questions I haven't asked that you would like to let us know today?
Just that for future generations seeing this, I hope they understand that what we've done today, what we're going to continue to do, and what we have done it's very important, and I hope that all of our efforts will never be in vain, and that a lot of the tribulations that we've gone through, they will never have to experience. No one needs that type of strife in their life.